Well, hello, my name is Vid, and today I'm going to show you how to build 2 different kinds of chunk loaders for Java Minecraft. Quick disclaimer, if you are on Bedrock Edition, stop searching for chunk loading designs. This kind of chunk loader does not work on Bedrock Edition. The only way for you to load chunks on Bedrock Edition is to use the ticking area command. I'm going to put a link to that command down in the description down below. That should solve all of your problems. For the Java players out there, let's start building. One more quick disclaimer for those Java players out there. This doesn't work for mob farms, with the exception of iron farms. Iron farms will work with chunk loaders, but if you're trying to build a creeper farm or a generic mob farm for like a skeleton grinder or something, a player needs to be there for mobs to spawn for the most part. So don't put one of these on your mob farm and expect it to work. Chunk loaders don't work with mob farms. Okay, now let's start building. To build the Nether portal-based chunk loader, you're going to need everything that's in this barrel right here, starting with a dispenser. Make sure it's a dispenser and not a dropper. You need 1 hopper. You need a lever, a redstone torch, some building blocks, 1 slab, 2 detector rails, then some obsidian to make a portal, a flint and steel to light the portal, and 1 hopper minecart. Plus, you're going to need 3 furnace minecarts as well. Let's grab all of that stuff into our inventory and start the build. Now you're going to want to build this chunk loader in the middle of a chunk. What is a chunk? Well, Minecraft is broken up into blocks, as you know, and each chunk is a 16 by 16 block area. But they have very specific borders. In order to see those borders, you're going to hold down F3 and press G on your keyboard. That's going to show the chunk borders, and you're just going to want to be somewhere in the middle here. To start the build, we're going to jump and place a dispenser so it's facing straight up. Then behind that dispenser, we're going to shift-click a hopper so it's pointing into the dispenser. Then we're going to jump up on top, and we're going to place some obsidian right up on top of that hopper, just like that. Now we want to turn this obsidian into a full nether portal just by extending it, let's say about 4 blocks, something like that. And then let's go up like this, and up like this, and then straight across. Perfect, just like that. Don't light the nether portal yet. I know you want to, don't do it. Next, we have to come down behind the dispenser here. We're going to shift and place a redstone torch right up against the dropper like that. While we're here, we can also put a lever on the side right there. And now we're going to jump up. Actually, before we jump, we're going to place shift and place a block above that redstone torch, just like that. Now we can jump up on top of the dispenser. In fact, we can jump right up here. I'm going to shift and place a rail right on top of the dispenser facing that way. And then I'm going to place another rail right up there like that. We don't actually need this upper rail. It's only there to make this rail go onto a slant. So let's jump over there and break that, get rid of it. Now we need a slab, and from here we can shift and place a slab right there on top of the rail so that the whole contraption looks something like this. The last thing to do before we light the portal is to place the hopper minecart, and make sure it's the one with the hopper right here on this rail. You're going to see it slides down and ends up inside the obsidian just like that. We have to do this before we light the portal, otherwise that guy tends to go through the portal and we don't want that. All right, now we can light the portal. Now that the portal's lit, we need to go through the portal and see where it takes us. So let's just put a helper block down right here, jump up, and go through the portal. All right, perfect. I am now into the nether, and you can see I have a very flat area. This is great. You should do the same. Make sure your area is very flat, or at least you have a little bit of space to work. And now we're going to go back through the portal, and just make sure this portal doesn't link to any of your other portals as well. Okay, back on this side, we can start placing in the minecarts. The first minecart, make sure this is a furnace minecart now. We're going to place it on the rail right behind this other one by just clicking right here. You can see what happens is that immediately goes through the portal. Now we need to figure out exactly where it ended up, so let's go through the portal one more time. All right, when you get to the nether side, you should see the furnace minecart is kind of stuck in the portal. Now, what we need to do is take our flint and steel, and we need to light this block on fire right here, and we also need to light the other side block on fire. That's just to make sure that the hopper minecart definitely, or the furnace minecart definitely gets burned when it comes through here. What's going to happen is the fire's going to burn it. It's going to break into an object model instead of the entity minecart that it is, and it's going to fly immediately through the portal. So let's go through the portal and see where it ended up. All right, back in the overworld again, and we should see that that hopper minecart right here has picked up the item and put it all the way down here in the dispenser. Perfect. We can leave it there for now. Now we've got 2 more furnace minecarts to place. Let's place another one right there. And you can see the chunk loader is already working as intended, but just to make it absolutely safe, we're going to put a 3rd minecart there. And now we have 3 hopper minecarts kind of in perpetuity. And if you hear this clicking sound, you can see the whole thing's working. This is actually now loading chunks. This is a very cool design by a YouTuber called Dark. I want to link to his channel down in the description down below. I should also link Ray's works down below. He created the original Nether portal chunk loading design way back about 8 years ago, so full credit to him. Both of their links are in the description down below. Before we move on to the theory, let's create a second chunk loader design. This one is the one that uses the ender pearl, and this one is obviously much easier to create. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to the middle of our chunks here, somewhere in the middle, doesn't really matter where, and we're going to dig down exactly 6 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. On that 6th block, we're going to jump and place some soul sand. Now we're going to take our water bucket and we're going to look up. We're going to place the water right there. Now we're going to place our kelp, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of kelp, and then swim all the way back down to the bottom. We're going to break the bottom kelp, and that should shoot us right back up to the top here. Perfect. Now we're going to take our ender pearl. We're going to shift and walk as close to the edge as we can, aim right about in the middle, and we're going to throw that ender pearl down. If you do it right, the ender pearl should not hit the bottom and should bounce right up and down right there. You've just created yourself an ender pearl stasis chamber. This, the reason why we dug down exactly 6 blocks, by the way, is because that is the exact number so that your ender pearl does not hit the bottom. And again, just in case you are on Bedrock, I don't know why you're still watching this video, because none of these things will work for you. In fact, the ender pearl stasis chamber doesn't even work on Bedrock, so none of this applies to you. Okay, so you're probably asking yourself at this point, what is a chunk loader? Why did I build this thing? What's going on? And what's the difference between the Nether portal chunk loader and the ender pearl chunk loader? Well, I'm going to show you all of this stuff. Welcome to the theory part of the video. And I've built myself a little area that will make the explanation much easier, but we got to teleport there. So let's throw our ender pearl and teleport over there. And here we are in my little test section here. Check this out. We got a minecart going back and forth. We've got some copper laid out here that might be aging. We've got a chicken sitting above a hopper, so hopefully it's going to be laying some eggs. We've got a smelter going. We've got some sugarcane and some other crops growing. And of course, we've got this large wall that's slowly burning down here. Over here, we've got some vines. We've got some twisting vines and some weeping vines, all kinds of different vine type things. And then just to show you here, right here in this chest, I've got, actually in this chest, I've got a bunch of redstone blocks that are being picked up by this hopper minecart and put down in here. So the question is, why did I build this little thing here? Well, the answer is because I can use this to test my chunk loaders. And the way to do that is by using this command. It's called tick freeze. And now I have frozen the game. Check it out. I can jump, I can move, I can do whatever I want, but the smelter has stopped, the minecart has stopped, the vines have stopped growing, the fire has stopped ticking, and now I can go ahead and build myself a chunk loader. And there we go. I've built myself this chunk loader again, one more time, high above where my test setup is down there, and I'm just going to use my tick freeze one more time to freeze the game. And now we have copied all of our little test environment many, many times over. Check this out. We've got a little bit of area over here. We've got a little bit of area over here. And we can see that because the ticks are currently frozen, the game is frozen. Things like our fire is not spreading. Our crops are not growing. Our super smelter is not even smelting. It hasn't even turned on yet. Look, I've got all of these items in this this chest up here. They haven't even got into the hopper yet. But we're going to test the chunk loader. We're going to get into that center chunk here. We're going to test the chunk loader and see exactly what happens when we unfreeze these chunks. Of course, I don't want to be here when that happens because I want to check if the chunk loader is working. So I'm going to teleport myself about 1,000 blocks away. And there we go. I've now teleported myself about 10,000 blocks away from where I just was. And now we are going to unfreeze the game and see what happens. First, we'll use the tick unfreeze command to unfreeze the game. And now we're going to do something else. We're going to do something called a tick sprint. What this is going to do is run the game as fast as it possibly can, and maybe we'll sprint that for 7 days and see how that gets us. All right, our sprint is complete. Now, all we've got to do is teleport back and see how things happened. But first, let's freeze the game one more time. There we go. The game is now frozen. Now, when we go back there, nothing will update. Let's see what happened. And here we are, back in our testing ground. And you'll notice something very different. We're standing on a bunch of grass. Why is that? Well, because I forgot to mention before, I had actually put 1 block of grass in the little template here to see if the grass would spread. If I fly way up above where the chunk loader is, you can see very clearly what chunks have been loaded and what chunks have not been loaded, just based on the spread of the grass. But this should give you an idea of what is a fully loaded chunk, what is a lazy chunk, and everything else. Look at this. The fire tick did not spread at all. Fire did not spread, so even with a chunk loader, fire is not going to spread. Vines, on the other hand, did grow. All the different kinds of vines are going to grow. The hopper minecart did go back and forth in this main chunk here, and you can see in this chest here, yep, it emptied this chest completely and put everything here. Now, copper normally ages in this. Unfortunately, my test didn't go long enough, and that's why none of this copper aged. So I'm going to have to run a longer test and show you what I'm talking about here. Let's take a look at some of the other things. We've got our super smelter. Smelter is actually still going. In 7 days, it managed to get through this much of the stone. So smelting in a regular furnace is pretty slow. My chicken, how did my chicken do? Well, it laid about 17 eggs. Beautiful. How about my crops? Yep, sugarcane fully grown. All of my other crops fully grown. Yeah, so we're looking pretty good. Now let's take a look at some of the adjacent chunks. Like, let's go to the chunk. Let's see, this is the one with the chunk loader in it. Let's go to the chunk right next door. So it looks exactly the same on the surface. You can see that we've got the hopper minecart there. Same thing, it's emptied everything. It's got the super smelter. Yep, done the same amount. The chicken has laid, yeah, a little bit more eggs for this one. Again, that's just a random thing. All of my crops are grown. Fire still didn't spread. The vines did spread. So this is basically the same as the chunk with the actual chunk loader in it. But if we go one more chunk over, look at this. Well, we can tell right away the grass didn't spread. That's where my grass block was, by the way. And yeah, you can see it did not spread. Did the minecart go back and forth? Nope, it didn't. Looks like it didn't move at all. This chest did not get emptied at all. However, this is interesting because the super smelter's on. It looks like it's smelting something. Yeah, it's actually smelted the same amount. So super smelters will work 3 chunks away from the loader. So that's really interesting, right? What else? What else? We've got our copper. We haven't been able to check whether our copper aged, but look, the crops don't grow. So that's interesting. None of the crops grew, but our hopper did work. Our chicken, interesting, didn't even load. Our chicken didn't process enough to fall down into place, which means there's no way it was loading eggs. But if it had, if there was a pile of eggs here, the hopper and the barrel would have actually picked it up. So interesting that in this area, just the super smelter does work. And of course, that's going to be the same in all of these chunks that are just outside of the regular 3x3 here. So in the 5x5, this area outside, we are going to get the super smelters to work. But that's pretty much it. Super smelters and hoppers, so it's basically redstone processing, but that's about it. Even our hopper minecart didn't go back and forth, but the hopper did work. If we move one more check out, well, look at that. The super smelter didn't even start. We've still got a full chest up here. Nothing went in here. So this one didn't work even a chunk out. So it really depends how far away you are from the chunks, how much stuff is going to grow, how much stuff is going to process. And this is a really good world for seeing exactly what is happening. And of course, the experiment would not be complete if I didn't also try this same thing with the Ender Pearl chunk loader. So I've got the exact same experimental setup in place. ready to go. I've got the chunk loaded. My ticks are frozen, which is why the ender pearl is just kind of stuck, hovering in space right there. So let's fly away and come back and see what happens. And we're back, and this time I actually stayed away about 21 days instead of just the 7 before, and so I did actually get some of the copper to age, so that's cool. But as you could see here, the ender pearl chunk was fully loaded because we've got the grass, we've got the crops, the super smelter should be, completely done by now. We got lots of eggs from our chicken here. Our hopper is completely full here. Vines have all grown. Fire still hasn't spread. Interesting. I thought fire did spread with loaded chunks, but it does not. But interestingly enough, just outside that chunk, did our super smelter go? Okay, the super smelter did go, same as in the other chunks, but no copper aging. Our chicken didn't process, so nothing. Our hopper minecart didn't go back and forth, didn't unload. Our crops didn't grow, as you can see, and of course fire didn't spread, and even the vines didn't grow. So only one chunk away, we do have the hoppers and droppers and super smelters working, but not anything else. So obviously, ender pearl chunk loaders are very powerful, but they don't do the same thing. In fact, the regular chunk loader will do basically full load in the 3x3 with the extended super smelter and hopper stuff out to the 5x5 versus the single ender pearl chunk loader, which is 1, and then just the 3x3 for the super smelter and hopper stuff. All right, let me bring it all together in a nice summary for you. Over here, if you build the Nether portal chunk loader, will your crops grow in the central chunk that the chunk loader is in? Yes, they will. That includes grass, mycelium, minecarts. Will they be processed? Yep, they'll fly around the track. Hoppers and redstone, yes, absolutely will work. Entities like chickens laying eggs, yes, that'll work. Copper aging, yes, that'll work. Will fire spread? No, it will not in these chunks. I'm not sure about that one. I don't know why that didn't work. It's supposed to, but it does not. If you go one set of chunks out from there, mostly it's exactly the same with the Nether portal chunk loader. Crops, yes. Minecarts, yes. Hoppers and redstone, yes. Entities, yes. Copper aging, yes. And still fire, no. But if you go one step outside of that, then it's all a whole bunch of no's, except for this one. Hoppers and redstone will still process out here. So so you can run your super smelter all the way out here in this basically 7x7 area. 7x7? No, 5x5. Sorry, I can't count. This is a 5x5 area. Your super smelter will still operate inside of this 5x5 area. Outside that though, sorry, nothing will get processed. Okay, let's look at the ender pearl one. If you choose to build the ender pearl chunk loader, well, guess what? It works almost exactly the same in the central chunk that it's in as the Nether portal chunk loader. So your crops will grow, your grass, your minecarts, your hoppers, redstone, entity processing, yes, your copper aging, yes. And again, fire tick does not spread. But as soon as you get one set of chunks out, so now this is the 3x3 area outside, all of this stuff stops working except for the hoppers and the redstone. So if you have like a redstone circuit that's running, that uses hoppers and droppers and things like that, super smelter, that's still gonna work in this 3x3 area around that Nether or ender pearl. But outside that, nothing. So this 5x5 does not help at all with the ender pearl chunk loader. Okay, time for some questions, such as, does it work in the Nether? Well, with this exact same setup, you can see that yes, in fact, it does work in the Nether. Take a look at that aged copper. Yep, all the way around in my 3x3 grid, exactly the same as the Nether portal based one in the overworld. You might notice that the grass didn't spread though, but that's only because, I forgot to add light. You kind of need light for grass to grow. Outside of that 3x3 area, again, you're gonna have the same thing with the hoppers and the minecarts and the super smelters, and outside of that, nothing. Doesn't work. But so it's exactly the same as it is in the overworld. Next question, does it work in the end? And the answer is yes, it works exactly the same as it does in the overworld. Of course, following the rules for the Ender Pearl one. You cannot, unfortunately, build the Nether Portal one in the end. As you probably know, you can't build another portal in the end. And you can't build the Ender Pearl one in the Nether because it kind of needs water and you can't put a water stream in the Nether. Yeah, that's the thing. But they do work exactly the same way as their overworld counterparts. So the Ender Pearl one in the end will work exactly the same way as the Ender Pearl one in the overworld. Couple more things that I should mention. First of all, by default, Ender Pearls will disappear, that is despawn, if you die. They won't despawn if you leave the world, log off, anything like that, or leave dimensions, but they will disappear if you die. However, there is a game rule to fix that. It is called Game Rule Ender Pearls Vanish on Death. If you set that to false, then your Ender Pearls will not despawn in the world. If you are playing on a server, you can ask your server administrator about this game rule. Different people have different rules, but yeah, I always set that on my servers, but I also change fire tick because I don't like fire ticking to happen anyway. And by the way, no, fire tick is on this server, so the fire ticks should have worked. That wasn't the reason why they weren't working. Second of all, if you are a server administrator or playing in a single player world and you want to load some chunks, you can actually use the /force load command, and that will actually allow you to designate a box of chunks that you can load and keep loading. Then you don't even have to build a chunk loader. You could just load those chunks. You might want to do that around, some special systems like maybe an auto sorter or something like that. But that is only if you don't want to build this amazing chunk loader design. That's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you guys sticking around to the end, and if you are still here, just want to give a quick shout out. I do have channel memberships available. If you join my channel, you can actually get access to some of my videos days or even weeks early, depending on the release of the episode. I know it says that you have to be the second tier of channel membership to get a video before the date, but for a limited time, and I don't know how long that's going to last, but probably in the indefinite future, any level of channel membership will actually get access to those videos a couple days early. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys found some value. If you did, I would highly encourage you to click that like button. Also subscribe so you never miss an episode. Helps me out a lot. I want to gain subscribers just like every other YouTuber. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.